This is the voice of Gretchen Anthony, fighting for her life, clinging to hope that a machine might save her. A desperate cry for help, echoing in an empty home, was all that remained of a vibrant woman whose life was stolen in a moment of unimaginable terror. What led to this heartbreaking moment? And how could someone she once loved be responsible for such betrayal? This is the tragic story of Gretchen Anthony. Welcome back to Chilling Fireside Stories. Today we're diving into a case that begins with a haunting cry for help and ends with devastating truths about trust, betrayal, and a love turned deadly. Before we begin, I'd like to issue a warning. This story involves themes of domestic violence and murder, which some viewers may find distressing. Viewer discretion is advised. Gretchen Stoughton Anthony was born on January 8, 1969, in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. In 2006 she moved to Florida, attracted by the warm weather and sandy beaches. Gretchen initially worked as a teacher in Palm Beach County before joining the Human Resources Department at a utility firm, a job she absolutely loved because it allowed her to connect with people. Gretchen was a loving mother to her 12-year-old daughter, Ava, from a previous marriage. She was known for her warm personality and dedication to her family and friends. In March 2015 she got married to David Anthony in Las Vegas, after a whirlwind romance. David grew up with his mom in Palm Beach Gardens. His childhood was somewhat adrift, and those who knew him said he rarely spoke unless spoken to and had low self-esteem. In an attempt to gain confidence, David devoted his life to physical fitness. He became obsessed with working out and earned a scholarship to play basketball at Eckerd College. David worked as a fitness coach at Orange Theory Fitness, which is where he met Gretchen. He became her personal trainer, and on paper, they appeared to be a perfect match, but as their relationship progressed, it became evident that things were far from perfect behind closed doors. One time, Gretchen found her wedding ring, passport, driver's license, credit cards, and some money in David's backpack. This discovery terrified her. She had no clue what David was planning. She confided in her friends that she was becoming increasingly scared of her own husband. By the end of 2019, Gretchen decided it was time to leave David for good. She asked him to move out of their shared home on Sunshine Drive in the Mallory Creek community of Abacoa, Florida. They had lived in a modern townhouse. David moved in with his elderly mother and Gretchen changed the locks. In March 2020, just as the world was grappling with the uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic, like many others, Gretchen took to social media to share her thoughts. On the other hand, David's colleagues noticed a change in him. He was coming in later and later each morning and becoming increasingly difficult to deal with. His boss, Tabitha Hopkins, mentioned that with David, there's no in-between. You never know which David you're going to get. On January 26th, the world was moved by the tragic death of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna. Kobe had been David's idol, and when he came to work he couldn't stop crying and wailing in front of his clients. He even gave a speech in the lobby saying he was too upset to work. His manager asked if he wanted to go home, but he refused and essentially threw a tantrum. Tabitha noted that you would have thought he and Kobe Bryant were best friends. He was deeply traumatized by the news. The following month, David was fired from his job as a fitness coach. A few days later, Gretchen and David submitted a divorce petition that they had signed in mid-January. Gretchen was now 51 and David was 43. It was time for a fresh start. In the weeks leading up to the lockdown, David began rambling about moving to Costa Rica. He dreamed of leaving Florida and setting up a new life there, inviting friends, former colleagues, and even women he went on dates with to join him. On March 15, 2020, David Anthony was arrested early in the morning after being reported for suspiciously approaching young girls near the beach on Singer Island. David was visibly nervous during his encounter with the police. He reached under his seat, prompting an officer to draw their weapon. Claiming to get his license, he climbed out but then jumped back into the car, slamming the door on an officer's arm. He was arrested for violently resisting arrest, and a Bowie knife was found under the seat. On March 18, David posted a $3,000 surety bond and was released from jail, with terms preventing him from leaving the county. Just a couple of days later, Gretchen's family began receiving alarming text messages from her. She informed them that she had tested positive for COVID-19 and was at the Jupiter Medical Center, being held by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The following day, Gretchen continued sending text messages, stating that she had an acute case of COVID-19 and was being transported from Jupiter Medical Center to a CDC-approved task force in Belglade. She mentioned that she was sedated upon arrival. Gretchen's family, concerned, the family contacted all local hospitals to find out more information. None of the hospitals had any records of Gretchen ever being there. The Jupiter Medical Center confirmed that the situation Gretchen described was not protocol and that she had never been at their hospital. The family grew increasingly worried for Gretchen's well-being, especially since she and David were going through a separation. One family member mentioned that David had issues, and they feared he could have done something to Gretchen. Gretchen's colleagues informed her friends and family that they hadn't heard from her either. She had come into work on March 20th like normal and appeared to be in good spirits, showing no signs of illness. However, on the following Monday, Gretchen didn't show up for work. She didn't call in sick or inform anyone that she was taking time off. Her boss, Don Paris, who was also a close friend, texted her, "Gretchen, are you okay?" As hours passed with no reply, he texted again, "Hi. Please let me know if you need something. I'm really worried about you." Later that afternoon, they received an email from Gretchen's work email address. The email was unusually worded and didn't read like it had been written by Gretchen. It stated that she had developed a low-grade fever over the weekend and woke up with shortness of breath, adding that she was going to the hospital to get tested for COVID-19. Her friend and colleague, Jennifer Rogers, told Good Morning America that the language in the messages was alarming and didn't sound like Gretchen. Her family went to the police and reported her missing. They showed the COVID-19 related messages they received from Gretchen to the police. Fear swept over Gretchen's loved ones when they learned that no such CDC-approved task force in Belglade existed. While Gretchen was nowhere to be found, the text messages continued. On the day the police began investigating her disappearance, Gretchen texted her family that she was being placed on a ventilator at Palms West Hospital. She mentioned a doctor, but when the doctor was contacted, he said Gretchen was not a patient and never had been. Police visited Gretchen's home on Sunshine Drive in the Mallory Creek community of Abacoa, Florida. Nobody was there. While police were outside her home, a neighbor approached and asked if they were investigating the attack that had occurred on the morning of March 21st. The neighbor said she heard a woman's blood-curdling scream coming from Gretchen's home.
Really serious woman scream, just screaming, like she was being attacked. And then I heard her scream, "No," and then I heard something about "it hurts, stop it." The scream was really serious.
This was around 6 a.m. She thought it might be kids in the neighborhood but soon realized it was serious when the screaming didn't stop. She got up, went outside and saw a truck backed into a nearby alley. She didn't recognize the truck and waited outside for about 15 minutes but heard nothing else. The truck was running with nobody inside. She took pictures of the truck and its license plate just in case. Another neighbor confirmed hearing the same disturbing sounds. Several neighbors reported seeing David's black pickup truck parked outside Gretchen's home that same morning. They noticed that the bed of the pickup truck was down, and a large tarp covered an unknown item. Surveillance footage from neighbors' homes confirmed that it was David and his pickup truck, capturing him coming and going from Gretchen's home that morning. According to another neighbor who spoke with police, water and what appeared to be a white chemical were seen draining into the street from Gretchen's closed garage. This neighbor also saw David washing Gretchen's car in the driveway. With this disturbing testimony, police entered Gretchen's home. Inside they found 2 bottles of cleaner and a rag in the kitchen. In the washing machine they discovered tiles with a red substance that was likely blood. There was also broken glass from a picture frame at the top of the stairs and small droplets of blood in the master bedroom. When they checked the garage, they found the key had been snapped off in the locked door. They kicked it down and found large, wet bleach stains on the floor alongside what appeared to be blood. Cadaver dogs were brought in and alerted to several areas, including the spot around the bleach stain. The garage smelled strongly of chemicals. Thankfully, there were security cameras at Gretchen's home, and their footage revealed a very disturbing scenario. Around 6 a.m., David was seen standing in Gretchen's screened-in porch, carrying an unknown object. About 10 minutes later, Gretchen opened the garage door and could be heard asking, "What are you doing?" followed by a muffled shout. David then forced Gretchen into the garage off-camera. Her screams could be heard, followed by her shouting, "Alexa, turn on the garage light." The audio from the security camera inside the garage picked up the sound of a loud thud and Gretchen's muffled cries. She could then be heard shouting, "Alexa, close!" Tragically, Gretchen had not set up Alexa to respond to this command. Her voice became more faint as she asked Alexa once more to call 911. Later, the security camera in the garage showed a motionless woman with light-colored hair stained red by blood. Next to her was a 5-gallon water jug smeared with blood. Moments later, David was seen walking into the garage, reaching up to the security camera and turning it off. It was clear that Gretchen's home was an active crime scene. Gretchen herself was nowhere to be found, nor was her dark blue Mini Cooper. However, later that day, police found Gretchen's car in the parking lot of Jupiter Medical Center. Inside they found her purse and there was smeared blood on the steering wheel and gear shift. The medical center's surveillance cameras showed the car entering the parking lot 2 days earlier. The footage showed a tall white man with dark hair exiting the car, locking it, and then leaving the area on foot. Police noted that David was a tall white man with dark hair, standing at 6 feet 7 inches. One of the first steps for police was to contact David, but they received no response. They went to his last listed residence, but David wasn't there. However, they did speak with his mother. David's mother told police that she hadn't heard from her son since March 24th. She mentioned that he had taken his dog and told her he was moving to Costa Rica. She explained that he had gotten into trouble a couple of weekends ago. Police informed her that Gretchen was missing. She then revealed that she had received strange text messages from Gretchen, asking if she could look after her cats while she was in quarantine for 2 weeks due to COVID-19. She mentioned that Gretchen texted her the day before, claiming to be in a CDC center for coronavirus treatment. Concerned, she had tried to reach Gretchen and even texted Gretchen's daughter Ava to check on her. The text messages to family and friends eventually stopped, and police traced Gretchen's phone to Pensacola, about 600 miles from her home. By this point, police were looking for both Gretchen and David, focusing their search on Pensacola. They discovered that David and his vehicle were captured on CCTV footage trying to sell a bag of women's jewelry at a store. A local man told police that David had sold him jewelry, claiming it belonged to his mother who had died of COVID-19. One item of jewelry was a distinctive David Yurman ring which Gretchen owned. Suspicion grew as the text messages, the loud scream, and David selling jewelry painted an ominous picture. Police issued a search and capture order for David and continued to trace both Gretchen's and David's phones. The day after Gretchen's car was found, both phones were pinged to Texas. On March 30th, police finally made contact with David over the phone. He informed them that Gretchen was in the hospital receiving treatment for COVID-19, which police knew was false. He then claimed he was with Gretchen, who was fine but did not want to speak with them. He read a written statement supposedly from Gretchen, saying she had uncovered illegal tax fraud at her workplace and had contacted the IRS. He claimed she was terrified for her life and that someone had been sent to her home to harm her over the weekend. Police knew this wasn't true as local agencies confirmed no such report had been made, and the allegations against her employers were fictional. David also claimed Gretchen was hiding from her former husband Jeff, who allegedly forced his children to send threatening texts and voicemails to Gretchen and himself. Unaware of the evidence already recovered, which included neighbors hearing Gretchen's screams and surveillance footage showing David in the garage with what appeared to be Gretchen's body, David continued to spin his tale. Finally, on March 31st, David Anthony was arrested. David was tracked to Las Cruces, New Mexico, nearly 1,900 miles west of Gretchen's home. He was walking his dog when police officers surrounded him and took him into custody without incident. They informed him there was a warrant for his arrest for homicide, which left him in disbelief. During questioning, police confronted David with evidence. They told him that Gretchen had come out of her house at 6:30 a.m. on the morning of March 21st and met him on the porch. This was the last time she was seen alive. Despite David's claims that Gretchen was still alive and that they had been traveling together but split up around El Paso, Texas, police knew this wasn't true. Police showed David photos of blood all over the garage and informed him that he had been seen on surveillance footage cleaning it up with green plastic gloves. Anthony continued to insist that Gretchen was alive, but the evidence suggested otherwise. David was charged with the kidnapping and murder of Gretchen. During his arrest, he commented on how polite the police officers were. Police held a press conference, stating that while they had not yet recovered Gretchen's body, they had gathered enough evidence to conclude that she was dead and that David was responsible for her death. In addition to the gruesome evidence found inside Gretchen's home, a cadaver dog alerted to the scent of human decomposition in David's pickup truck. Police also found 2 Amazon Echo devices and dismounted security cameras in his truck, which he had stolen from Gretchen's home. Police asked the public for any information about Gretchen's murder. They stated that as the investigation progressed and further evidence was collected, it became clear that David Anthony was responsible for her disappearance and related homicide, which occurred on March 21, 2020. Weeks passed with no sign of Gretchen, although it was apparent to all that she had been killed. In mid-May, David was extradited from New Mexico to Florida. He had waived his extradition, but coronavirus-related travel restrictions complicated the matter. David requested reasonable accommodations for the long journey, stating that without ample rest he would exacerbate previous injuries. When he arrived at the Palm Beach County Jail, he was ordered to be held without bond. As the case progressed through the justice system, the search for Gretchen's body continued. There were no significant developments until December 20, 2020, less than a week before Christmas, when it was announced that a plea agreement had been reached. David pleaded guilty to the lesser charges of second-degree murder and kidnapping. He was given the plea in exchange for information about where Gretchen's body was located. The plea also stipulated that prosecutors could not withdraw or seek additional charges based on what police found when they recovered Gretchen's body. David told police that he had disposed of Gretchen's body near Bush Road and Indiantown Road, about 3 miles from where she lived. Investigators searched the area and located what they believed to be Gretchen's body. Gretchen was found wrapped in a blanket and buried in woodland on the grounds of an assisted living facility. She had been stabbed multiple times in the neck and torso. After Gretchen's body was found, a press conference was held to update the public. Chief Dan Kerr of the Jupiter Police Department, along with other officials, announced that because of the plea agreement, David pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 38 years in prison. David will be 81 years old when released. The discovery of Gretchen's body was bittersweet for her loved ones, providing the closure they had been searching for. They had struggled over the past 8 months, especially Gretchen's daughter. If David had not provided the location of Gretchen's body, the plea agreement would have been voided, and the first-degree murder charge would have continued in court. David appeared in court in early January 2021 to be formally sentenced. Gretchen's loved ones were given the opportunity to provide victim impact statements. Her sister, Sarah Carey, spoke about how amazing Gretchen was and how much she loved her daughter, Ava. Sarah described Gretchen as a devoted mother who worked hard every day to give her daughter the best life. Sarah then addressed David directly, calling him a fraud and stating that his statement would never mean anything to anyone. She revealed that Gretchen had been murdered by David in the garage of their former marital home. In court, David was given the opportunity to speak. Clutching a piece of paper, he read a heartfelt statement acknowledging the weight of his actions and the irreparable damage he caused. He expressed deep remorse for the pain he inflicted on Gretchen's family and admitted that he had shunned the love given to him for a cold-hearted, evil act. He concluded by stating that he had disgraced his family and brought shame upon his name. He was sentenced to 38 years in prison, with the requirement to serve at least 85% of the sentence before being considered for parole. This case is a sobering reminder of the importance of recognizing red flags in relationships and protecting yourself when you feel unsafe. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out for help. Resources and hotlines are listed in the description below. As we reflect on Gretchen's story, let's also honor her memory by spreading awareness and supporting those in dangerous situations. And as always, thank you for being here with me today and helping to share these important stories. Until next time, please stay vigilant and stay safe.